The participants that will be learning along with me will stay with me till we finish this entire book, BRS Physiology. So without wasting more time, let's begin. Our lecture would be of 1 hour, that is 60 minutes. Okay. First of all, let me explain you a bit that I go line by line. Okay. I will read every single word from this book, and I hope you will understand it. I will use pictures, my notes. Let me show you. These are my notes. Okay, I will show you my notes. I will show you the book. I will show you the pictures along with it, and I will make the most of your time and money that you have invested with me, or you have been in future investing with me. Okay, let's begin it. So, in order to learn neurophysiology, you should have a good grasp on neuroanatomy as well. But no worries if you have only taken this physiology course with me and you are not taking anatomy with me, no problem. I will be touching the anatomy a bit, that will be important for you to understand and learn neurophysiology, but definitely I will not be covering the entire neuroanatomy along with neurophysiology if you haven't taken the course of anatomy with me. Okay, so autonomic nervous system. Okay, before starting from this page, this autonomic nervous system, I want to give you a bit of guideline about how nervous system is composed of, and what do we divide this nervous system into. And for that I will take you to my notes. Okay, you see, we have a central nervous system and we have a peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is composed of brain and spinal cord, whereas the peripheral nervous system is composed of the sensory portion and with the motor portion. Okay, now both of these sensory portion and motor portion contains cranial and spinal nerves. Okay, so it would be better for me to say that the peripheral nervous system is composed of cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Okay, and cranial nerves, there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves which are divided into sensory and motor nerves, and also some of them are mixed. Okay, we will go into detail and later. And spinal nerves that are arising from the vertebral column. Okay, we will study in detail that as well. Okay, so for now you need to understand that our nervous system is divided into central nervous system and into peripheral nervous system. In central nervous system we have brain and spinal cord. In peripheral nervous system we have cranial and spinal nerves. Clear? Now this is a picture. Okay, this is the brain, and this is the spinal cord. Okay, now we have our brain is divided into, if I'll talk about the major portions, it would be forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. I think I should make this a bit narrow so that you can see it on the screen. I think now it's zoomed. Okay, so we have forebrain, we have midbrain and we have hindbrain. Okay, but if I'll only talk about this forebrain, then we can see we have a cerebral cortex, that this area, and we have an area beneath this cerebral cortex which we called as subcortical area. So this is the cerebral cortex, the cerebral area, and this is the subcortical area. Also you need to understand at this point that cerebral cortex, we have three terminologies: cerebrum, cerebral cortex and cerebellum. Okay, so always keep it in your mind that cerebral cortex and cerebrum are same. Okay, they are the same. This region is cerebral cortex. This region is also known as cerebrum, but cerebellum is different. It is a part of hindbrain. Okay, this is cerebellum, this is cerebellum, and this is cerebrum, or we can call it as cerebral cortex. And all the area which is present below this region is called subcortical area or subcortical level. Okay, let's move on. Okay, now just an overview that what our spinal cord do, what can be the basic functions of spinal cord. Okay, it can be walking, it can be movements, it can be anti-gravity reflexes, GI movement, urinary bladder, sphincters, blood vessels. Okay, blood vessel constriction, relaxation. Okay, so all like if the all the bodily movements, the voluntary and the involuntary that is going on is dealt with the spinal cord. And if I talk in more detail, then I'm talking about the cranial and the spinal nerves that are arising are responsible for these movements. Okay, as in general. Now, let me give you a bit guidance about the subcortical level. Okay, I showed you in the picture, the level below the cerebral cortex is subcortical level. Okay, below the cerebral cortex it is written, and it deals with the subconscious activities, the subconscious activities that you do not know, your body is not aware of. Like for example, right now you are listening to me and you're taking this demo class with me, and you are listening this lecture with me, and you are breathing. Our normal breathing rate is 22 breaths per minute, right? 18 to 22 breaths per minute, this is the normal breathing rate. But you see, you are not counting the number of breaths you are inhaling and you're exhaling. You're not counting them, I am not counting. Okay, so this is a subconscious activity which our mind is not aware of. We are not aware of, we are aware of that we are breathing, but we are not aware of the rate of breathing. Similarly, arterial pressure. Right now, when you check your blood pressure while taking this lecture, there might be some reading in that meter. Okay, in that sphygmomanometer, there will be some systolic and diastolic numbers written. But are you aware of how much pressure your blood is exerting on your walls of arteries right now? You don't know. Okay, you are not aware of it. So these all are subconscious activities, and they are dealt by this portion of the brain which we called as subcortical level. Okay, so I am explaining you right now this in a broad, in a general terminology. Definitely you might have the question that what are the things, what are the nerves that are responsible for these two things and for also other subconscious activities that I've not mentioned. But do not worry, this is just the first lecture. Okay, we will be discussing everything in too much detail. Then I want to tell you a bit about this cortical level. Okay, cortical level. um, Cortical level deals with the higher cognitive functions. The higher cognitive functions include memory, includes learning, includes the vision. Okay, thinking abilities. So all these are the higher cognitive functions. And also we can say that this cerebral cortex or the cortical level is the storehouse or the memory house of the brain. Your short-term memory and your long-term memory is stored in here. Now you will say me that if this is the storehouse or the memory house of the brain, then what hippocampus is doing? Do not worry, do not pressurize your brain with the parts. Okay, we are just taking you along superficially from the big portions to the depth, and we will come into the little and small portions, even the nucleuses of the brain, slowly and gradually. For now on, just take it as The cortical levels are dealing with the higher cognitive functions, and the subcortical levels are dealing with the subconscious activities that are involuntary activities that are going inside our body. Okay. Okay. Now, here I also want to mention this integrative function, which is written in this box, and um, because this is not mentioned, all this whole page is not mentioned in your book. Okay, these BRS books are very high yield books, and they have not mentioned teeny tiny descriptions. So I am just trying to build a base of you before going to back to the book. Okay, so this thing, integrative function, is very important to know, because if you open the guidon, the small short guidon if you have, or the big guidon book you have, this is the most important topic in that book. And we used to study it, and it used to be asked in vivas a lot when we were back in our second or third year of medical school. Okay, so let's revise it a bit in short. That what is integrative function? Now forget what is written, just listen to me. That whatever function, whatever sensory input your body is having, okay, okay, now here, if for the people who do not know, the people who are listening to me, some of them might know what is a sensory and what is a motor response, but some of you might just not know what is sensory and what is motor. For them, okay, pinch your finger. Okay, just pinch your right hand first index finger from your left hand. Okay, just give yourself a pain, give yourself pain. Now this pain that you felt over here, okay, there are nerves that are taking this pain, these this pain fiber, their pain fibers, these nerves, they are taking this response of pain to your central nervous system, that is brain and spinal cord. Okay, there are nerves that are going to the spinal cord, and from spinal cord they are reaching the brain, and they are taking this response. So these kind of nerves which are taking this stimulus of pain to the central nervous system, are called as afferent. Okay, afferent from A, not from E. It is if any one of you have not taken a copy or a pen with you, just take a copy and pen with you, and write down the things that I am telling you, if you have really bad base of physiology. Okay, afferent with an A, it is AFFERENT, afferent. Okay, so these are called afferent nerves, which take the stimulus, be it pain, that stimulus can be pressure, that stimulus can be temperature. For example, you feel cold or you feel hot. These days it's a very hot weather, and you can feel really hot sometimes. So you see, there are these fibers, these nerves that are taking all these responses to your central nervous system. For example, you're touching an ice cube. Okay, you're touching an ice cube and you feel, cold. Your fingers feel cold. So all these sensations are going to your central nervous system via afferent nerves. Okay, and these are called as sensory input. These are called as sensory input. Sensory input, the stimulus. Okay. Okay, now what is a motor response? Now these nerves, when they reach the central nervous system, they give that response to central nervous system that this person is being given pain, or is having hot sensations over there. Okay, for example, if you touched a candle, the fire of the candle, and eventually you touch it, you feel burn, you feel that burn sensation, and you push back your finger away from that candle fire. So that response that you're doing, pushing your finger away from that fire, is motor response. Okay, so this is also called reflex action, and this whole process is called as reflex arc. Okay, so from the stimulus to the central nervous system, This is called sensory input taken by afferent nerves from A and from central nervous system to the motor response, that is the way you are behaving, the way you're fighting or showing some defensive mechanism is the motor response. Okay, and that is again from nerves which are termed as efferent nerves. Now these are from E. Okay, EFFERENT, these are efferent nerves. Okay, so efferent nerves are responsible for motor responses, and afferent nerves from A are responsible for the sensory input. I think I'm clear to you people. Now let's go back to the integrative function. So this integrative function, there is 1 to 2% of sensory input is used to generate a motor response. Much of it is discarded. Okay, now what does it mean? That whatever sensory inputs go to our brain, for example, from 100%, only 1 to 2, the brain takes only 1 to 2 of them as serious. Only 1 to 2 of them are taken as serious. The rest, 98 to 99%, are discarded, thrown away from the brain. They don't take them serious. So that is called the integrative function of our brain. Okay. Now, how the brain know that this 1 to 2% is important, that we need a motor response for that? The information reached to the brain, it is processed there, and after the processing, we reach to our desired action. And also, this processing is stored as memory. This processing is stored as memory. Okay, so now you can understand that what is an integrative function. So you just need to remember that integrative function is only that 1 to 2% of sensory input, the stimulus, which is being generated to the brain. That information is used, processed to give the desired action, which we called motor response, to generate a motor response. And this is stored as memory also. Okay, and where it should be stored as memory, it should be stored as memory in the subcortical regions, the regions which are responsible for the higher cognitive functions, the region which is called as the storehouse or the memory house of brain. Okay, this, I think you're clear with the basic part. Okay, now let's move to, don't worry, I will go back to that BRS physiology. Okay, I'm just building some base for you for right now. Now this is forebrain. Okay, this is forebrain, because I will be using these words in neurophysiology when we will go further in deeper, and I will not come back here to explain you what is forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, what we call it as brainstem, what are these nucleuses, what is a hippocampus, what is the basal ganglia, okay, what are thalamites. I'm not gonna touch this anatomy part when we will go deeper. So that is why I'm kind of trying to create a base of your neuroanatomy so that you may have that picture in your mind that what are you studying about, because BRS physiology book do not have pictures. Okay, and it is very high yield. Every line of that book is important, you can't ignore it. Okay, now this is a forebrain, okay, the cerebrum or the cerebral cortex area. Okay, and also this lower portion of this is called subcortical area, where we have hippocampus, okay, where we have the limbic system, where we have the basal ganglia. Okay, so we will study those portions in detail because they are internal structures. Right now I'm telling you the superficial ones. So just remember, this is forebrain, and it has a cerebrum or cerebral cortex and a subcortical level. Okay, now this is midbrain. Midbrain is the part that connects forebrain and hindbrain. forebrain and hindbrain. Midbrain is the part that connects. Now there are very small crucial structures here which are nucleuses, okay, which are nucleuses, and no need to get in a detail of it. Just move to hindbrain. Now, when you're coming to hindbrain, you see this, there is pons, there is medulla oblongata, and there is a cerebellum. So all these three structures, pons, medulla oblongata, and cerebellum, consist of hindbrain. But make sure that when you talk about brain stem, you always say that brain stem is composed of midbrain and hindbrain. But in this hindbrain, you do not have cerebellum in it. Okay, just keep this thing in your mind. Pons, medulla oblongata, and midbrain. These three portions in straight line consist of brain stem. You do not see cerebellum in brain stem. But when you talk about hindbrain, you have these three things: pons, medulla oblongata, and cerebellum. Okay, I think I'm clear here. So whenever I will say the word brainstem, your mind should go that I am talking about the midbrain and pons plus medulla oblongata of hindbrain. Okay, so there are three structures: midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata, which equals to brainstem. So remember this terminology. I will be using this terminology in future. Okay, now up till here, forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, up till here, you see this brain is completed. Now, what I told you, that our brain, our nervous system is divided into central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. So this picture is of central nervous system, and this is the brain portion of central nervous system. When I'll talk about the spinal cord portion of central nervous system, you will see that according to the name of vertebras, our spinal segments are being named. Okay, we have a cervical vertebra, we have thoracic vertebra, lumbar vertebra, sacral vertebra, and coccyx. Okay, the fused bone. So as the names of vertebra, we have the names of these segments of spinal cord, which are termed as cervical segments, thoracic segments, lumbar segments, and sacral segments. I think you're clear enough here. So this whole picture is of central nervous system. Okay, central nervous system. Now, let me tell you the detail of the central nervous system. Okay, now central nervous system is composed of brain, forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Okay, in forebrain you have cerebrum or cerebral cortex, you can say. Then you have subcortical level. In the subcortical area, you have diencephalon, which is present between the brains, that is thalamus and hypothalamus. Now, I have some pictures and I can show you those pictures. Wait a second. Okay, I guess You can see this picture, people. Now these are the two cerebral hemispheres. Okay, I guess I'm not mute. No, I'm not. Okay, these are the two cerebral hemispheres, and between them, when I separate them, for example, I take out one part of this, okay, and I take out one part of this, so you can see the structures that are present between these two. Okay, similarly, this is the caudal view, and when this is the inferior view. Okay, when I turn this brain upside down, you can see that there is a portion which we call midbrain, and then here is pons. Okay, and this is medulla oblongata, and these structures are cerebellum. Okay, these structures are cerebellum. So I think it is bigger on your screens now. So this is midbrain, this is pons, this is medulla oblongata, this stalk is medulla oblongata, and these two olive-shaped structures are cerebellum. Okay, and all this part is cerebrum, which is from the inner side. Now, if I remove these two cerebral hemispheres, if I remove these two cerebral hemispheres, what will you see? Okay, what will you see? Let me show you. You will see this. I think if you can see this image. Now I have removed one portion of cerebral hemisphere, and now you can only see this portion. You can only see this portion, and you see here this part is where your CSF flows also. Okay, this is the third ventricle, and then you see the fourth ventricle, and you see this pituitary gland, this hypothalamus. Okay, here's hypothalamus, and you see this corpus callosum. Okay, and you see this interthalamic, okay, connection, and you see all these things over here. Now, and this is what was cerebellum. Earlier, when you saw it from an inferior view, this was pons, and this stalk is the medulla oblongata. Okay, and here this portion was the midbrain, which is not specifically much clear in here. Okay, so this part, when now this is the third ventricle. Now there are two structures that are present alongside the third ventricle. Now if I want to show you the diagram, a handmade diagram of. Now, first of all, just see this. Just try to get this thing in your mind really straight. Okay, this portion is big enough. Okay, on your screens now. Just understand this part, that this is the third ventricle. Okay, and this is, for example, you are seeing the person from his ear side, okay, you're seeing the person from his ear side. When you will see the person from the front side, from the frontal, from the face, from the eyes area, nose area, when you see the person from there, you will see that there is a structure which is present here and also behind this third ventricle. Okay, behind this hypothalamus region. Now let me show you so that you may understand it better. Okay, okay people, can you see this picture? This was the third ventricle that I showed you previously. Okay, here, this was the third ventricle, okay? This was the third ventricle, and this is the third ventricle, okay? Now you are seeing this portion from the front side, that is from the frontal region, and there are two rounded bodies that are present on either side of third ventricle. There are on the either side of two bodies on either side of third ventricle. Similarly, you can see it in this picture. Can you see this picture? Here. Now, this is the third ventricle. This is the same picture that you saw previously in a proper image. This is the third ventricle. These are the thalamus, but you were unable to see the thalamus, okay? And you saw this hypothalamus also, and you saw this pituitary gland also in that picture. Here it is. You saw this pituitary gland, and you saw this hypothalamus, and this is the third ventricle, but you were unable to see the thalamus, the two thalamus that were present on either side of third ventricle. But here you can see it really clearly, these structures, these two structures that are present, okay? Now let me, okay, there is one more picture, a very good one, same one but good one. This is it. See, this is the pituitary gland, this is the hypothalamus portion, and this is the third ventricle. There are two thalamus that are present on either side, but you can see them, okay, in this picture. So this region, this thalamus, the thalamus that are present on the either side, and this hypothalamus portion is what we called as the diencephalon, diencephalon. Let's go back to the notes. This is what I was teaching you, that there are two structures that are present between the two cerebral hemispheres of the brain, the thalamus and the hypothalamus, and this region is called diencephalon. Then we have the telencephalon, okay? And what is telencephalon? It is also the part of forebrain, okay? We are just studying forebrain right now, and that includes cerebral hemispheres, the two cerebral hemispheres that I showed you in the picture. The two cerebral hemispheres that I showed you in this picture, these two cerebral hemispheres, okay? So cerebral hemispheres, basal ganglia, hippocampus, and amygdala. Now this is important, basal ganglia, hippocampus, and amygdala. So you should see this also. And I wonder if I had a picture of it. Okay, let's see this picture. Now you see, this is the hippocampus. This is the hippocampus, this region going behind this caudate nucleus. This is the hippocampus, and this pea structure shaped little thing is called amygdaloid nucleus or amygdala. Okay, so this is amygdala, this is the hippocampus, okay, and this whole structure is called as basal ganglia or basal nuclei. This whole portion is called as basal nuclei or basal ganglia. So there are certain things that are included in basal ganglia, and what are they? They are this portion, this whole portion, which we call as the lentiform nucleus. This portion is lentiform nucleus, and it consists of two parts. This part is called putamen, and this part is called globus pallidus, okay? this part which is attached to the caudate nucleus, this whole thing is a caudate nucleus, and this is a lentiform nucleus. This is the caudate nucleus, so it is connected to it. And then we have this amygdala, which is connected to this tail of caudate nucleus. So this whole thing, this whole portion is called as the basal ganglia. Okay, so I have one more picture of it. You can see this chart. In this chart, you can see the terminology commonly used to describe the basal nuclei or the basal ganglia. Okay, the structure, these are all the nucleuses, so that is why they said nucleus, but this is basal ganglia. Okay, so you see, you will see a caudate nucleus. You will see globus pallidus plus putamen, which I told you is called as lentiform nucleus. Let's go back to the picture also. I think it was this one. No. This one. No. This one. Okay. Now this is the lentiform nucleus. Okay. Globus pallidus plus putamen, and that is what is shown in this picture as well. That globus pallidus plus putamen is called lentiform nucleus. Okay. So you had a lentiform nucleus. From the lentiform nucleus, caudate nucleus is attached. From the lentiform nucleus, caudate nucleus is attached. We have head of caudate nucleus, we have body of caudate nucleus, and then we have a tail of caudate nucleus. Okay, and then it is attached to this amygdaloid nucleus, which we call this amygdala. Okay, so you see amygdaloid nucleus is also present, which is called as amygdaloid body. So then you see some combinations. Now only these things are consist of basal ganglia or basal nucleus. Now you see there are some combinations like caudate nucleus plus lentiform nucleus is called corpus striatum. Caudate nucleus plus putamen is called as neostriatum. Okay, so these are the two terminologies, and what are they? Caudate plus lentiform. So that means they're talking about this whole thing, and this whole thing. Not this. This whole thing and this whole thing they're talking about. So this is what we call corpus striatum. Corpus striatum. Caudate nucleus plus lentiform nucleus. Then they are saying caudate nucleus plus putamen is called neostriatum. So this is the caudate nucleus starting from here up till here, plus this only up till this part. Only up till this part. They're not talking about globus pallidus. They're only talking about putamen and caudate. So this portion is called neostriatum. So why these things are important to tell you, it is because you will see these names written everywhere in neurophysiology, neuropathology, in neuroanatomy. So once you grab this concept, it will help you everywhere. So this is the thing. Now you see another thing which is present in the basal ganglia is called claustrum. Okay, it is called claustrum. Okay, let me show you what is claustrum in the picture. I think I have a picture of claustrum, or I don't have it. They have not shown it over here, but it is present around this. Okay, now see, this is the this is an image from website Google. Okay, now this thing you see, this little red line, this portion, okay, is called claustrum. You have an external capsule and you have an internal capsule. Okay, you have an external capsule and you have this pink thing, this called insula, and this is extreme capsule, or you say it, okay? So this little thing is called claustrum, and it is also included, it is also a part of basal ganglia or basal nuclei. There are some other images as well. If you can see this image, it is also a very good image. Okay, so this is, you see, this purple, little purple thing shown by this red arrow, this little purple thing is claustrum, okay? And this structure is insula, and this structure outside claustrum is the external capsule, okay? So you see all this blue part over here, all this blue part over here, this is basal, mid and forebrain, basal ganglia, midbrain, forebrain, hypothalamus and thalamus, okay? All this blue portion. Okay, now they have furthermore divided into the cerebrum portion, this into further parts as neocortex, as mesocortex, and then this little area, and then this purple thing which is called as pontine tegmentum, or you say it as pons, and then medulla oblongata, and the nervous system from downwards. Okay, that is the starting. So this picture is also really good. This picture is really good. I want to save it. Okay, so let's get back to our notes. This is another image, very good image. Okay, you see this is this portion is the hypothalamus. This portion is the hypothalamus. This rounded off-white color things are the thalamus. Okay, this is the third ventricle, and you see from this thalamus, this green color thing is caudate nucleus, divided into head, body and tail, and this yellow thing is lentiform nucleus. It is also divided into putamen. This portion which is attached to the caudate nucleus is putamen, this triangular thing, and this thing over here is globus pallidus. Okay, so all these things are called as basal ganglia. So you can have these notes. I guess I'm making you very much clear. Let's get back to the portion where we left. Okay, so I think now you're clear with forebrain, cerebrum, the diencephalon, including thalamus and hypothalamus, present between two cerebral hemispheres, and the telencephalon portion, which is composed of cerebral hemisphere, I showed you, basal ganglia and all its nuclei I showed you, hippocampus I showed you, and amygdala or amygdaloid body I also showed you, and combinedly these all things are called as telencephalon. Now I showed you midbrain earlier that connects forebrain and hindbrain, and then I showed you hindbrain that is divided into pons, medulla oblongata and cerebellum. Okay, now this was all about this brain portion of the central nervous system. When I go to the spinal cord portion of the central nervous system, you see we have these cervical segments, we have thoracic segments, lumbar segments, sacral segments, and coccygeal segments. Let me show you in the picture. This is the picture. Okay, now this is the brain. Okay, and from here the segments are beginning. Now these are the cervical segments. We have 8 cervical vertebrae. Okay, so we have 8 cervical segments. We have 12 thoracic vertebrae, so we have 12 thoracic segments. We have 5 lumbar vertebrae, but we do not have 5 lumbar segments. Keep that in mind. We do not have 5 lumbar segments. We have only 1 lumbar segment. We have 5 lumbar vertebrae, but we have only 1 lumbar segment. Why this is important? Why this is important? We have combined this lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal into this little portion. However, up till here, the spinal cord is going on. Up till here, this is the coccyx portion. Down, way down also. Because the spinal cord is ending at this level. The spinal cord is ending at L1 and L2 levels. Okay. Now, you see this picture. Okay. You see this picture. You see this red thing. You see this red thing. Let me use. Okay. You see this thing up till here. Okay. You see this thing up till here. This is the spinal cord, basically. This is the spinal cord. And all this red sheets, these are called as phylum terminali. Okay, and this thing, this structure is the first lumbar vertebra. So you see at the first lumbar vertebra, the spinal cord is ending. The spinal cord is ending. I may erase this line so that you can see, okay, just to see this, that okay. Okay. This portion, this inside this yellow is the spinal cord, and this thing is the first lumbar vertebra. It is also written over here, first lumbar vertebra. Okay, so spinal cord is ending at this level. In some individuals, it ends at this level, that is L2. Okay, and this is L1. But you see, all these fibers which are coming down, which are termed as phylum terminali, and they unite at this little point. They unite at this little point. Okay, these are the L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, and this is the sacral. This is the sacral vertebrae. Okay, and then this portion downwards, this portion downwards is coccyx. So you see this thing, this complete thing. Now let me show you another picture. Okay, let me show you another picture. This picture. Okay, now you see this thing, this is the first lumbar spinal nerve. Okay, so this must be the first lumbar vertebra. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and this, at the region where the spinal cord is ending, this terminal part of spinal cord is called as conus medullaris. And these fibers which are coming downwards, called as phylum terminali or quada equina. Okay, these are the phylum Terminali, and this is the Quada equina. So these are the three terminologies which we need to remember. But the most important thing that you should know that about the lower limit of subarachnoid space, and that is S2 at the sacral 2 vertebra. Sacral 2 vertebra. This is S1 and this is S2. So at S2 level, there is the lower limit of subarachnoid space. I have another picture. This picture, you see the lower limit of subarachnoid space, second sacral vertebra, S2. Up till here, the subarachnoid space is present, but beneath it, nothing is there. So this line which is coming downwards is called as phylum terminali, and this portion above is called as the subarachnoid space, which ends at the level of second sacral vertebra. And this portion, the terminal part of spinal cord that ends at first lumbar vertebra in some people, and in some people at L2 level, is called as conus medullaris. The terminal part of spinal cord is called as conus medullaris, and these fibrous sheaths of nerves that are coming along the rest of the lumbar vertebrae are termed as phylum terminali. Phylum terminali, okay? So why do you lumbar tap at L4, L5 level? Why do you lumbar tap at L4, L5 level? Because this region does not have a spinal cord, and this region is filled with the cerebrospinal fluid. Because subarachnoid space is present over here. Subarachnoid space is present over here. There are no nerves. So when you inject, when you put in the needle, you are not damaging any nerve. That is why we take the cerebrospinal fluid at this level, L4 and L5 level, okay, in individuals. So I guess these things are pretty much clear up till now. So let's back to notes. So I was showing you these segments. I think these segments are clear to you. Okay. Now, let me touch the peripheral nervous system with you. What is the peripheral nervous system? Peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system consists of cranial nerves and spinal nerves. So we have 12 pairs of cranial nerves, okay, and we have 31 pairs of spinal nerves. If you remember the names of cranial nerves, that is optic, olfactory, oculomotor, trochlear, trigeminal. Then we have abducent, facial nerve, okay, then we have vestibulocochlear nerve, okay, we have this glossopharyngeal nerve, we have vagus, okay, we have hypoglossal. I'm sorry if I forget even one name, but these are all these 12 pairs of cranial nerves, okay, that are arising from the cranium, that is arising from the cranium. They are not arising from the cervical vertebrae. People do confuse cranial nerves with cervical nerves. Just keep yourself really clear at this point that cranial nerves, the word cranial is named after the word cranium, and cranium is called as brain box, the region where brain is situated. Brain is placed inside your head. So that is called cranium, and hence the word comes cranial nerves. So they are 12 pairs, okay? And in spinal nerves, that is of 31 pairs, we have 8 cervical nerves that are arising from the cervical vertebrae, okay? You remember brachial plexus from upper limb? We have this from C5 to T1. So that C5, C6, C7, and C8 that were coming from the anterior divisions of the, that are coming from the posterior rami of these spinal regions of cervical vertebrae, these nerves, these cranial nerves, C5, C6, C7, and C8 from the brachial plexus, they are the cervical nerves. They are not cranial, okay? So we have 8 cervical nerves, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral, and 1 coccygeal, because there are 5 coccygeal bones that are fused into one, so it gives only one nerve. Okay, so when we add them all, it becomes 31. So we have total 31 pairs of spinal nerves, and we have 12 pairs of cranial nerves. That makes the peripheral nervous system. Clear? Now, from here, we will go back to the book, because from here, we will be studying about the autonomic nervous system, that is physiology. Up till now, I was just only clearing you with the concept of neuroanatomy so that you may understand regarding this neurophysiology, okay? So, let's go back to the book. I think it's already 1 hour lecture, but let me cover a bit portion of physiology as well, because this is a physiology class and physiology demo. So let me cover a bit portion of physiology as well, okay? Now, autonomic nervous system, okay? Autonomic nervous system is a set of pathways to and from the central nervous system that innervates and regulates smooth muscles, cardiac muscles, and glands. Okay, what do you mean by this line? Is a set of pathways to and from the central nervous system. Means they're talking about the nerves, the set of pathways, that is the nerves that are going towards the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, and coming from the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord. You remember earlier I told you about afferent and efferent? So this is what they're talking about. The pathways that are going to the central nervous system are afferent, and the pathways that are coming from the central nervous system are efferent. Okay, so to the central nervous system and from the central nervous system. Okay, that innervates and regulate smooth muscles. Now here they are not only talking about blood vessels. You see, smooth muscles are of blood vessels. Smooth muscles, we have smooth muscles in our GI tract. We have smooth muscles in our urinary bladder. Okay, the detrusor muscle is a smooth muscle. We have smooth muscle in the uterus of the females. So we have smooth muscles in the bronchioles, okay, of respiratory system. So all these things are smooth muscles. So it regulates the smooth muscles, all the smooth muscles of the body. And then cardiac muscles, that is the muscles which are totally of the heart, okay? And that is myocardium, the cardiac muscle. And glands, what do you mean by glands? They're talking about the endocrine glands. They're talking about the endocrine glands, okay? Endocrine glands, exocrine glands, the sweat glands, so these glands. So autonomic nervous system innervates and regulate these things, okay? One thing you should remember here, that somatic system, somatic means I'm talking about the muscles, okay? Soma is basically cell, and cells are composed of tissues, and then they make this muscle. Muscle is a tissue, okay? So the somatic muscles, or the somatic portion, is not innervated by the autonomic nervous system. It is different. It is different. It is completely different. And I have, I guess, mentioned that in my notes in the very beginning. Yes, I have mentioned this here in my notes, that smooth muscles, cardiac muscles, and glands have autonomic nervous system innervation, but the skeletal muscles have the somatic nervous system innervation. So skeletal muscles, the muscles that are responsible for the voluntary movements, the movements that you are aware of. For example, you're closing your fingers, you're closing your fist, you're making a fist, you're flexing your hand, you're extending your hand, you're jumping, you're walking. These all things are done by the skeletal muscles, and this does not include autonomic nervous system. It includes somatic nervous system, which is different, completely different. Okay, so the things that you are studying in upper limb and lower limb is basically somatic nervous system. It is not autonomic nervous system. Okay, all those plexuses, brachial plexus, lumbar plexus, sacral plexus, these plexuses, all these things are somatic nervous system, not autonomic nervous system. Okay. Autonomic nervous system is distinct from the somatic nervous system, which innervates a skeletal muscle. So it is mentioned over here. Autonomic nervous system has three divisions: sympathetic, parasympathetic, and enteric. Okay, enteric means gut, the nerves that innervates the gut, the intestines, okay, the GI tract, that is called enteric. So autonomic nervous system has sympathetic, means that the one which is involved in the fight and flight responses. For example, when you fear, okay, those responses, and the parasympathetic responses, that is when you are in a relaxed body, in a relaxed position. Okay, let me show you a picture. So this thing you see here is sympathetic nervous system. Okay, the man is running and the bull is behind it. This is sympathetic nervous system. So this person must be breathing fast. This person must have a increased heart rate. This person must have dilated pupils, okay, mydriasis. This person might be sweating. This person might lose the control of bladder as well. So all these things, this fear response, this flight and fight response, is because of the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, similarly, likewise, we have this parasympathetic nervous system. This lady is sitting on this couch and she's sleeping. So she is in a relaxed posture, her body is relaxed. So her brain is relaxed, all nerves are relaxed. So this is parasympathetic. So they are totally opposite. Over here, her breathing rate will be normal, her heart rate will be normal, her pulse will be normal, her bladder is not losing control, she might not be sweating, her pupils must not be dilated, they are at normal, no dilatation, no constriction, just normal. So this is called parasympathetic. So at rest, our body is at parasympathetic, and at fight and flight, fear, okay, our body is at sympathetic. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I just lost my page. Okay, I'm back to my page. Let me share the screen with you. Okay, so I think we're clear with these three lines from this book. Okay, let's go further downwards. Okay, when you will study this GI physiology, which is in this book, you will be studying all about enteric nervous system, the enteric division. Okay, So in this chapter, there will be nothing about enteric. You will study this enteric in GI. Okay, so I will not touch this part. I will be teaching it eventually when we will go to chapter number 6. Okay, for now we will be discussing sympathetic and parasympathetic in more details. Organization of the autonomic nervous system. Synapses between neurons are made in the autonomic ganglia. Okay, we have two type of ganglia. Okay, synapses is basically connections. What are synapses? Synapses are connections. Now come to my notes. Okay, what are synapses? Synapses are communicating pathways. These are the connections. Okay, and what are the function of synapses? It involves facilitation, it facilitates, and also the direction of impulse to travel, anterograde or retrograde. Okay, so this is what synapses do. Along with that, okay, now you see this picture, just forget about the details, just this part is a nerve, and from this part another nerve is there. So these two parts are in connection, in communication. Okay, so this is called a synapse. This is called a synapse. Okay, and this space in between these two regions is called as synaptic cleft. Okay, this space in between is called synaptic cleft, and this region, this connection is called as a synapse. So let's get back to the part. Okay, to the book. So synapses between neurons are made in the autonomic ganglia. Okay, autonomic ganglia. What is a ganglia? We have this knot-like mass of nerve cells, okay, which is found outside the central nervous system. It is a knot-like mass of nerve cells found outside the central nervous system, which we call as ganglion. There is a ganglion present inside the central nervous system also, okay, and that is called as basal ganglia. Okay, and it consists of nucleuses that I showed you, but we are not talking about this ganglia over here. We are talking about the ganglia that is present outside the central nervous system. Now let me show you the picture of it here. This thing is a ganglion. Okay, this is a spinal cord, and these are the nerves. So it is present outside the central nervous system. Okay, it is not present inside the spinal cord, or it is not present inside the brain. It is present outside it. So this thing is a ganglion. Okay, and it's a knot-like thing. It is a collection of nerve cells. Okay, nerve cells. So autonomic nerve plexus is a collection of nerve fibers that form a network. Nerve cells may be present within such a network. So they are talking about this thing. This whole structure, this nerves, these pathways, all this nerve thing, this is an autonomic nerve plexus. Okay? These things, all these nerves, you see, all these nerves you see, this is an autonomic plexus. This is an autonomic plexus. And this you see yellow color thing, this is a ganglion. This is a sympathetic ganglion. You see these circular things, ciliary ganglion, otic ganglion, ciliary ganglion, superior mesenteric ganglion, inferior mesenteric ganglion, renal ganglion. Okay, these things are ganglions. And they are present outside the nervous system. So Synapses between neurons are made in the autonomic ganglia. Parasympathetic ganglia are located in or near the effector organs. Sympathetic ganglia are located in the paravertebral chain. I just showed you this picture. This is the paravertebral. This is the paravertebral, okay, along the vertebrae. So this is the sympathetic ganglions, and parasympathetic ganglions present near the visceral organs. So you see eye, lacrimal gland, salivary submandibular gland, parotid gland, heart, lungs, stomach, small intestine, kidney, renal, suprarenal gland, colon, rectum, bladder, and all these genital organs. So you see all these organs, these visceral structures, and there are ganglions present near them. These ganglions are parasympathetic. And these ganglions which are present near the vertebral column, the spinal segments, these are the sympathetic ganglion. Okay. So parasympathetic ganglia located in or near the effector organ, sympathetic ganglia located in the paravertebral chain. Okay. Para means around, vertebral chain. Okay. Now, preganglionic neurons and postganglionic neurons. The concept of pre and post. Now, let me give you the idea of what they're talking about. Okay, first of all, I will explain you and then I will read these lines. Now you see all these nerves. Acha, first of all these blue color nerves are parasympathetic and all these red color nerves are sympathetic. Okay, just keep this thing in your mind. This ganglion is sympathetic, so all these nerves which are coming towards this ganglion and are going away from this ganglion are all sympathetic nerves, but this blue color thing is parasympathetic. These ganglions near these organs are parasympathetic. Okay, so the nerves going towards these ganglions and away from these ganglions towards the organs are parasympathetic. Now we will talk about preganglionic and postganglionic. Okay, pre means before and post means after. So this blue color non-dotted line, okay, arising from this cranial nerve number 3, cranial segment number 3, number 7, number 9, number 10. Okay, these are the cranials. Okay, arising from these areas, these nerves, non-dotted lines going towards this ganglion are the preganglionic fibers. And you see this, from the ciliary ganglion there is a dotted line which is going towards the eye. Okay, dotted line going towards the eye. So this is the postganglionic fiber. Okay, similarly, come to this red portion. In this red portion you see these non-dotted lines going towards this sympathetic ganglionic paravertebral chain. These are the preganglionic sympathetic fibers. And the ones that are going away from this ganglion, even from here up to here, not only up to the paravertebral chain, but from here up to the celiac ganglion. You see all these nerves, these all from here up till here, these all are preganglionic sympathetic nerves. But from this ganglion, celiac ganglion, the one going towards the stomach, towards the small intestine, these dotted lines, these dotted nerve fibers are postganglionic sympathetic nerves. So I think now the concept is clear. Now one more thing I want to mention over here at this point, that you see this parasympathetic rising from optic, olfactory, oculomotor. So this number 3 is oculomotor. Okay, oculomotor nerve, facial. This is number 9, which is glossopharyngeal, I guess. If I'm not mistaken, yes, it is glossopharyngeal. Accessory is 11. Okay, and the number 10 is vagus. Okay, so this 3, 7, 9, 10, 3, 7, 9, 10 is, if I'm mistaking this Roman letter of 9 and 11, I'm sorry about it. I'm not just sure about 9 and 11 Roman writing, but these are the sympathetic. These are the sympathetic. These are the parasympathetic portions. Okay, and come down to this picture, you see this S2, S3, S4. These are also the parasympathetic. So they arise from S2, S3, S4 segments as well. From S2, S3, S4 segments as well. Okay, and these are the pelvic splanchnic nerve. If you will be studying anatomy with me, I will be explaining you. You will be studying this pelvic splanchnic nerve in the parasympathetic supply to the organs in anatomy as well, and also in GI physiology as well. So it's better to remember this thing right now, that pelvic splanchnic nerve root value is S2, S3, S4. This is important, okay? Pelvic splanchnic nerve root value S2, S3, S4. Okay, and it innervates to this distal 1/3 of transverse colon. This is the proximal, this is the transverse, and this is the sorry, I'm so sorry, this is ascending, this is transverse, and this is descending, and then this is sigmoid colon, and then this is rector. Okay, so the transverse colon, distal 1/3. We have proximal and we have distal. Okay, so the distal portion of transverse colon and the descending colon plus the sigmoid colon. Okay, all these areas have a parasympathetic supply innervation by pelvic splanchnic nerve. Okay, and this urinary bladder, you see this urinary bladder over here. This urinary bladder, the detrusor muscle, the sphincter of the urinary bladder, also has the innervation, the parasympathetic innervation by pelvic splanchnic nerve. Similarly, these genital organs, this uterus, okay, uterus of the female is innervated by pelvic splanchnic nerve. Okay, and the root value is S2, S3, S4, and this is parasympathetic nerve. So this is important. That is why I told you in detail right now. So you have to remember it for future purposes also. But these are the parasympathetic supply, not the sympathetic. The sympathetic supply is different. Okay, it is different. It is coming from these root values. So let's go back to the book and read what they have written for us. Preganglionic neurons. Okay, preganglionic neurons have their cell bodies in the central nervous system. Means it can be in the brain. For example, the 3, 7, 9, 10. Okay, the cranial nerves. Okay, so in the central nervous system, and synapse in autonomic ganglia. Okay, autonomic ganglia. Free ganglionic neurons of the sympathetic nervous system originates in spinal cord segments T1 to L3 or the thoracolumbar region. Now they're talking about the sympathetic nervous system. Don't confuse. They're talking about preganglionic neurons and sympathetic nervous system. Let's go back to the picture. Preganglionic neurons and sympathetic. So these are the sympathetic preganglionic fibers, right? So, and they're arising from T1 to L2. We can also say it thoracolumbar. Thoracolumbar, from T1 to L2, thoracolumbar regions. Okay, so that is what they have written over here, that preganglionic neurons of the sympathetic nervous system originate in spinal cord segments T1 to L3 or the thoracolumbar region. Clear? Next line. Preganglionic neurons of the parasympathetic nervous system. Now they are talking about the parasympathetic preganglionic fibers, okay, originate in the nuclei of cranial nerves and in spinal cord segments S2, S3, S4, or the craniosacral region. Now let's go back. You see this, these are the preganglionic parasympathetic nerves arising from 3rd, 7th, 9th, 10th, okay, originate in the nuclei of cranial nerves. These are the cranial nerves nuclei, okay, cranial nerves nuclei, and also the sacral S2, S3, S4 nuclei. These nerves are also preganglionic parasympathetic nerves. So preganglionic are the non-dotted one in these pictures, okay, in these pictures. So let's read it again. We can say it also craniosacral because this cranial nerves and the sacral segments combinedly termed as craniosacral, just as the thoracic to lumbar were thoracolumbar. So cranial to cranial nerve and the spinal cord segments, these segments S2, S3, S4 can be called as craniosacral. So you have to remember this that preganglionic neurons of the sympathetic nervous system originate in spinal cord segments T1 to L3 or the thoracolumbar. So it is important to remember that sympathetic nervous system preganglionic neurons have this thoracolumbar region and the parasympathetic ones have this craniosacral region, okay. Now come to postganglionic neurons. I told you all the dotted ones either in red color or in blue color. All the dotted lines in red or in blue are the postganglionic fibers. So let's see what they have written for us. Postganglionic neurons of both divisions, that is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, both divisions have their cell bodies in the autonomic ganglia and synapse and on effector organs. Effector organs like heart, blood vessels, sweat glands, etc., etc. Okay, kidney, suprarenal gland, eyes, rectum, uterus, stomach, large intestine, small intestine, colon. Okay, all these effector organs. So these are the effector organs. So their cell bodies arise from the autonomic ganglia. This is the autonomic ganglia. These are the ganglias. These are the ganglia. So their cell bodies arise from here, and they go to the effector organs. Okay, the postganglionic neurons, whereas the preganglionic neurons have their cell bodies in the CNS and they synapse in the autonomic ganglia. So now you're clear about it, that these preganglionic fibers have their cell bodies in the central nervous system. These spinal segments are a part of central nervous system, right? I told you. So their cell bodies are arising from here and they are synapsing in the autonomic ganglia. But when we talk about the postganglionic fibers of both parasympathetic and sympathetic divisions, their cell bodies are arising from the autonomic ganglia, and they are synapsing in the effector organs. All these are effector organs, okay, that are responsible for the response, the effect. So the next thing is we have adrenal medulla. Now there is an exception for parasympathetic and sympathetic and the ganglions. Adrenal medulla does not have a ganglion, okay. There is a nerve fiber. See the suprarenal gland. Can you see a dotted line over here? There is this coming straight towards the suprarenal gland. So we have in the adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla, okay. So the adrenal medulla is a specialized ganglion. It is itself a ganglion, okay, of the sympathetic nervous system. Preganglionic fibers synapse directly on chromaffin cells in the adrenal medulla. Adrenal medulla has chromaffin cells, okay. These cells release norepinephrine into the bloodstream, okay. So this fiber, preganglionic fiber coming straight from the central nervous system, directly synapse in the on the chromaffin cells of the adrenal medulla. Okay, and the chromaffin cells secrete epinephrine and norepinephrine also. Epinephrine 80% and norepinephrine 20% into the circulation, directly into the circulation. That is why we called adrenal gland as an endocrine gland. What is the definition of endocrine gland? That the secretions are directly poured into the blood. They are not absorbed or taken by nerves or any other means. Okay, they do not need gates or anything. They are poured directly into the blood. So these neurotransmitters are poured directly into the circulation. So this is adrenal medulla. They have showed it in some figure 2.1. Okay, this is a chart, but we'll discuss it later, then leave it. Okay, now this is very important about pheochromocytoma. Pheochromocytoma. It is a tumor of the adrenal medulla. Pheochromocytoma is a tumor of the adrenal medulla, okay, that secretes excessive amounts of catecholamines. What are the catecholamines? Epinephrine, norepinephrine. Okay, these two things are secreted by adrenal medulla, so these are the catecholamines, and is associated with increased excretion of 3-methoxy 4-hydroxy mandelic acid, which we call as VMA. There are other things also. Okay, let me tell you so that you can write it in your textbooks. Wait a minute. Okay, you can hold a pen and can write it in your book or on your notes about this pheochromocytoma, a bit more about it. Okay, this pheochromocytoma is a benign tumor. It is a benign tumor, okay, and it is also called as paraganglioma. It is a benign tumor and it is also called paraganglioma, okay. And what happens in this, that the levels of these two catecholamines, epinephrine and norepinephrine, are raised. Okay, okay, so you will be having increased levels of epi and increased levels of norepi. In pheochromocytoma, this is very important. It is a benign tumor. Okay, a benign tumor. So how it is caused? There are people who undergo surgery. Okay, there are people who undergo surgery. So the people who are undergoing surgery and for hypertension, okay, the surgery of blood vessels. So then when they're undergoing this surgery for the correction of hypertension, that is high blood pressure, this can cause pheochromocytoma. Okay, that leads to increased epinephrine and norepinephrine, and also in the urine, the patient might have increased excretion of metabolites, of the metabolites of these things, which are called as metanephrine, normetanephrine, and VMA. So the thing written VMA over here, the thing written VMA over here is a metabolite, okay, metabolite of this epinephrine, norepinephrine. We also have meta epinephrine, meta norepinephrine, and this VMA. These are the metabolites. So you will see these metabolites increase excretion in urine, and the epi and norepi will be increased in the blood circulation. So the patient will be having extremely excessive sympathetic responses because they're responsible for sympathetic activities. Okay, so this is all about pheochromocytoma, and you can okay, I think you can understand it. So I guess this is all about this organization of autonomic nervous system. Okay, then we have these neurotransmitters of the autonomic nervous system as the next topic to cover. Okay, so let's see if anything is left from my notes of this topic which I've added. I will cover it, and then I'll end this lecture up till here. Okay, here I have mentioned these plexuses. Okay, there is a cardiac plexus, pulmonary plexus, esophageal plexus in the thorax, and then because I have told you that these are the autonomic nerve plexuses. Okay, so these are the plexuses. Apart from that, in abdomen, okay, we have the aorta and its branches, which are named as the subdivision celiac, superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric, aortic. I showed you in the picture above. And in pelvis, we have superior hypogastric and inferior hypogastric. Okay, so these are some of the things that I have just mentioned over here. But when you will be studying the anatomy of these areas, okay, the regional anatomy, then you will be studying these plexuses in the nerve in the innervation portion of anatomy. Okay, now let's see this diagram of autonomic nervous system. um, in this diagram, you see this is the portion of the spinal cord. Okay, and this is the gray matter. This H-shaped thing is the gray matter, and the rest of the thing is the white matter. So in this gray matter, we have these two we have three horns, an anterior and a posterior and a lateral one. Okay, so when we see this posterior one, okay, this posterior one carries the parasympathetic supply, or we can say sensory supply. Okay, so just remember this or write it somewhere that the posterior horn is responsible for the sensory division, and the anterior one is responsible for the motor division. So this red one is motor and this blue one is sensory. Okay, and then they meet here at this ganglion. They create a synapse over here in this ganglion. Okay, and then from here, this is the paravertebral chain of ganglions, the big yellow thing that which you see in the previous picture, and then from here they reaches to the effector organs. Okay, now for this parasympathetic part, okay, it directly, reaches the stomach. Okay, so this must be the vagus nerve, because vagus is parasympathetic and it supplies the stomach. Okay, but for the sympathetic portion, the motor part, you see here is a sympathetic ganglion. So the ganglion for the stomach is celiac. Okay, so it is not mentioned here because this is a general picture, but you can understand that this is a celiac ganglion. Okay, and then from here the postganglionic fibers are arising and are going to the stomach. So this is basically the autonomic nerve plexus. Okay, and it is similarly present in the whole body. Okay, now basically this diagram is a differentiation in between the autonomic and the somatic part of the nervous system. Okay, so this portion on the left side is of the autonomic, and this portion on the right side is of the somatic part of the nervous system. So you see this part is the somatic part. It is supplying the muscle. Okay, it is supplying the muscle. There is no ganglion over here. But you see both of these nerves, there is an interneuron present here. So for the somatic part, you have an interneuron. So just keep this thing in mind. There is a connector neuron, or we can say it as an interneuron. So you see, this is the skin. This is the supply to the skin. Okay, the sweat glands. The sweat glands are present beneath the skin. So the sweat glands and the muscles. Okay, sweat glands and the skeletal muscles are innervated by the somatic part of the of the nervous system, and the rest is autonomic part of nervous system. Okay, and there are no ganglions, there are no paravertebral chains, and nothing. It's simple. It has a afferent neuron, it has an efferent neuron. It is simple. But here you don't see afferent and efferent. So afferent and efferent words are used for the somatic part of the nervous system. Okay, and they do have an interneuron or a connector neuron in between that is present inside the gray matter of the gray part of the spinal segment. Okay, so this is a picture which I need to understand you. Now from here, from this picture, we will continue in the next lecture, or hopefully if you like this demo, we will be continuing this BRS physiology together till the end, and I will be teaching you in the similar way. This course is of 6 months, and even if it takes less than 6 months, very good, great. But if it takes more than 6 months, I will not cost you a single penny more. Okay, so whatever taken is taken. Okay, so we will be completing this whole BRS physiology like this, and in the similar way I do teach anatomy and biochemistry from first aid. Okay, first aid 2020. So I will be teaching you biochemistry from there and pharmacology from first aid. So the demo lecture for biochemistry is on my YouTube channel, which is Think with Dr. Shadab, and you can check it on my YouTube channel. Okay, let me show you over here. Wait a second. Okay, so you see, if you can see it, this is my YouTube channel, and I have already given a lot of demo videos on anatomy upper limb. So I have approximately 9 to 10 videos on anatomy upper limb, and I have covered topic by topic. So the people who will be taking my course for anatomy already have upper limb lectures. Okay, and the part that is not covered in this anatomy lecture is only the actions and the origin and the insertion of muscles. Okay, so I will be covering that part, and also up from Arbjikin palsy to the brachial plexus injuries I will be covering in the paid lectures. But up till here, this free portion is available to everyone. And also biochemistry, there are 2 lectures on nutrition of like 1 hour 20 minutes and 2 hours. Okay, from the first aid book, so you can check the demo of it. Okay, so in this way I will be teaching biochemistry and pharmacology from the first aid, but I will be teaching this anatomy from Snell review book. Okay, and physiology and pathology both from the BRS. Okay, in the similar manner. So just as this. So if you have any queries regarding anything, you can ask me. So most of you will be getting this recorded lecture, okay? And the way you are receiving the recorded lecture, in the similar way you will be having the live class on Zoom. So this lecture is recorded on Zoom, okay? So I will be delivering it and you will be listening. And if, for instance, you miss a lecture, a class, there is no problem. I will be recording it and I will give you the link to the recording. Okay, so you can access them anytime later also if you miss any class. So that would be not a problem. So let's meet on the other side now. And this lecture recording is like of approximately 2 hours now. So the class will not be this long. I will be teaching 1 hour per subject. So the people who are taking the classes of only one subject, they will have to sit with me for 1 hour, okay? Or even if they can't, they will be getting the recording of 1 hour Monday to Friday, okay? But for the people who are taking 5 hour, the 5 subjects from me, they will be getting the recording or the live classes 1 hour per subject Monday to Friday in a similar manner. That means 5 hours per day, okay? And the time will be discussed later. So we will be starting our classes from 3rd August. That is, I guess, the 3rd day of Eid. And hopefully, uh, we will be studying together in the same pace and manner as I taught you in this demo. So till here, I'm signing off, and Allah Hafiz, everybody. Hope you like it.